Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Friday night in our house, and of course that means another fun-filled episode of On the Ring Apron. I'm Steve. My co-host will be joining us here shortly. Baby-related business to handle. We have small ones that run around our house. But either way, another exciting week. We get a chance tonight to kind of go over some of the backlash and the backfall from the horror show at Extreme Rules that happened this past Sunday. For those of you who didn't join us, Kia putting on a special Questions with the Queen special on her new night of Thursday and deciding that her premiere episode was something that you guys have requested for a while as the Queen pops in.
Hey!
Getting an opportunity to see a reaction video of us watching the horror show at Extreme Rules. It seemed it was something that was very much requested. It was very much asked for, so we wanted to take the time to do so. And if you continue to like it, we're thinking about doing one live for NXT 30 as well as SummerSlam that's coming up.
I don't think I approve that, but hey, if y'all continue to like it, then yeah, probably.
Well, they can watch me the whole time then.
And
0 views.
On my show? Man. Hi, everybody.
Questions with the Queen, answers from the King. Anyway, that apparently isn't going over very well.
No. No.
Anyway, but as we said, the horror show at Extreme Rules, has come and gone. A lot of, we had one, I'm not going to say necessarily surprising title change with Nakamura and Cesaro winning the Smackdown tag titles. And then, of course, the controversial title change of MVP becoming the U.S. champion. She's still in her feelings.
That whole entire pay-per-view, I give it an 8 out of 10. Now that I'm thinking about it and you made a comment, now it's 7 out of 10. The 2 women's matches, I felt like they got screwed. And then, MVP dubbing himself like the United States champion. Oh, please, no. The Swamp match was way better.
Well, there we go. See, look at that. 1 vote already for live SummerSlam. We got 1 vote.
Hey, okay, keep bringing in the feedbacks and I'll do it.
Yeah. Hey, they liked them.
Yep.
And it's 1 less video I have to record, so, yay. Less work for me. Don't pat my head. Anyway, so let's review what's happened this week. Of course, as we said, horror show came and gone. We moved, of course, to Monday Night Raw. Of course, the big story being that Drew McIntyre, despite the fact that Dolph Ziggler put up an amazing stipulation that I don't think either of us saw coming. We certainly didn't say it in Top Rope spoilers. Deciding that he was going to activate Extreme Rules in his favor, but in his favor only, including the ability to have the title change hands by disqualification, count out, any means, but Drew not being allowed to use those.
But what did we say? Because we got the stipulation wrong. We did say it didn't matter what Dolph came up with, Drew was going to Claymore kick him, and that's exactly what he did.
What it ultimately did, though, is it made it that match ended up being a lot more entertaining than I thought it would be, because I really thought that'd be one that would kind of,
under the table?
Yeah, exactly. I thought it would be overshadowed by a couple of matches. But Dolph, of course, on Raw, not willing to, take his loss lying down, reminding Drew, I was this close, which, Drew, of course, poked fun, saying that's the story of your career, always being this close but never being able to finish the job.
And I'm glad you segue into that, because you have to think, every time Dolph opens his mouth and says he's going to get it done, it's a likely chance it's probably a good, 50% of the time that he gets it done, so throughout his career.
Eventually.
I mean, it's been like that his whole career. Drew was right in that, so.
Oh, absolutely. But, so that leads to a little back and forth with the idea being that Dolph goading Drew McIntyre into 1 more match next Monday for the WWE Championship. The rule this time being that Drew gets to pick the stipulation. So either this is going to have some kind of shenanigans or this is going to be a Drew-ass drubbing, to say the least.
I just like the turnaround's fair play only because Drew isn't going to tell him what it is until they get there on Monday to the Performance Center. So I like how he's making Dolph wait to find out what it is. I'm hoping it's something Drew-esque, like you said.
Well, something, the other match that's, of course, coming up this upcoming Monday that was announced on this Raw this week is the Women's Raw Championship match. Certainly ending with some controversy at the horror show, as with Bayley, Asuka using the green mist was meant for Sasha and ended up hitting the referee, and ultimately leading to Bayley hitting Asuka with the belt, literally stealing the referee's shirt and counting the pinfall, thus declaring Sasha the new Raw Women's Champion.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, someone called it all belts.
No, it's not all belts. Let me tell you something, Steve. Sasha did not legit win that title. It is still belonging to Asuka, and with the rule being in play, like
anybody else watch SmackDown tonight? I'm pretty certain I saw that Raw Women's title over her shoulder. Okay, I'm just saying.
Just because she's carrying it, it's not legit hers. I'm saying what Stephanie has said, and she stated it this past Monday. No interference from the outside. So that means if Bayley interferes, Sasha loses her title, or loses the
flip to the other side. If Kairi Sane shows up on behalf of Asuka, then Asuka would lose the title. Basically declaring we must have a winner this upcoming Monday. So you're going to get a pair of rematches from the horror show, each with a slightly different stipulation than we had, but a possibility of not just one, but potentially two title changes coming up this week on Raw. And, with the U.S. title being in flux and the Street Profits apparently going to be pointed at Andrade and Angel Garza, as well as some other teams. We're going to see how it's going to turn out. A lot of good stories as we head towards SummerSlam.
You know how this is killing me because I'm a women's empowerment as well as tag team. Anybody that watches my show knows both those facts. And the fact is, I love the Street Profits and everything they stand for, and I do have the smoke. But I'm also kind of rooting for, I call them my Latina Heat for, this. Yeah, I mean, like...
Copyright. We got it. We heard it first. You heard it here.
I'm just saying, for me, I would like to see Andrade and, Angel Garza hold those titles, even if it's just for, a few months. The reign would be awesome, in my opinion. I think it'd be great. But you also understand who's their manager, who actually is trying to get them on the same page and keep them on the same page to win those titles. So
and looking fantastic while she does it.
She slays all the time.
She slays.
But I think
so much.
I think they could do it if they stayed on the same page and they worked together. And, Zelina is going to do everything in her power to make sure they win those titles. Now, don't put it past the Street Profits to bring Bianca and have her in her corner, them in her corner.
How nice that you bring up Bianca, because her new friend on Raw, how about a nice shout out to Ruby Riott getting her first singles victory, actually her first victory of any kind in over a year. Of course, going through double shoulder surgery, and we had the distinct pleasure this week of having a Zoom meeting with the Mania Club with Miss Ruby Riott.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ruby, if you happen to catch this, thank you very much for such a fun show.
Yeah.
We absolutely just enjoyed spending time with you. Granted, it was virtual and everything else. But we continue to have these meetings with Mania Club and just continue to to see these people in an all new light, because despite the fact that they're wrestlers, the meetings for us tend to not always just be completely about wrestling.
Exactly.
It's really more about them as just people.
Well, it's getting to know who they are outside of their personas too. So I feel that's a good thing. And plus, we're donating money for good causes.
Absolutely.
Connor's Cure and Give Children the World.
We need to start getting some folks on here. I don't know how we can swing that, but we think we need about 1,000 more followers first. So we're gonna have to work on that. Hey, tell your friends. You love our show? Tell them about it. We'll get some more folks, and then we can start getting more big-name people. But Ruby getting the win, definitely setting up for something. Probably, Ruby, Bianca, getting a little bit of time. Wonder if maybe they get a shot at the tag team titles a little bit later. And also, you're starting to kind of see the cracks potentially with the Iconics.
I don't know what to say on that. I love the Iconics. But if you look at how it's set up, aren't they supposed to be best friends? Best friends aren't supposed to have no cracks at all across the board. You're supposed to be solid. It's just like saying, I can fight with my sister, but you can't fight with my sister. And the fact that the Iconics, you could kind of see cracks here and there, even if they're trying to be iconic, it's not really working.
We'll have to work on the timing.
It's not really working, only because, if you can get that upset with your best friend, just imagine what you can do when y'all are not best friends. Look at, who was it? I'm drawing a blank, but when I come to it, I'll actually let you know. But still, I just feel like that could be better done, in my opinion.
And then, of course, we can't get out of Monday Night Raw without talking about the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins, doing what he said needed to be done on Sunday, making Rey Mysterio the ultimate sacrifice by pulling an eyeball, gumdrop, out of Rey Mysterio's head to basically win the eye for an eye match. and then starting to set up Aleister Black potentially as the next sacrifice towards his run on Monday Night Raw.
I think Aleister Black, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Seth, and I think he's, a good Messiah, and I am a loyal disciple, but I'm not going to even sit here and pull against Aleister. I think if the circumstances were right and everything is set up perfectly, Aleister Black is going to rip the holy out of Seth. I'm just saying. I mean, we saw what he did every time he's come to Ray Ray's defense. There have been some losses, but I think he's going to get the upper foot, and I think he's going to put one on Seth.
He's going to keep an eye on him, perhaps?
Yeah. That's what I live with.
It's not a pun at all, but either way.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, we're in kind of that lull period. We talked about this a few weeks ago, where you hit this down period of time. Usually, the first episode immediately out. Usually, you kind of tie up the loose ends from the previous stories, and that's what they're going to do this week as well as into next week. But then you really start getting that build over the remaining 2 to 3 weeks, heading into what is supposed to be WWE's second biggest show of the year, which is SummerSlam. And right now, you've got about 1 million different directions you could go. Of course, the biggest one talking about, who's Drew McIntyre going to potentially face at SummerSlam. With no fans, you don't expect, it to be, the instant pick, which of course is Brock Lesnar, or Goldberg potentially returning, because without the fans there, it doesn't make a ton of sense for them to be there. Plus, we've seen Drew and Brock already. But I think the answer is sitting right there, and he was the victor of the main event this week, and that's Randy Orton.
I don't see how and I told you off camera, I feel like Randy was good when I first started watching, but I think as time has gone on, I think he's gotten better, and I honestly would love to see a match between the two. I think it would be it'd be excellent. I
can tell you right now, and I've said it live on the show before, I think we're seeing the best Randy Orton we've ever seen in his career right now.
I agree.
Think, everybody wondered, because there was a long time, especially when he was on Smackdown, where he kind of sat in the center, and you really weren't sure, how he was going to get used or anything like that. And yet, now you look at him, and I argue that, bringing back his legend killer persona may arguably be the best thing that's happened to him probably in the last decade.
I mean, he's more vicious, he's more vile, he's more venomous. I mean, obviously, if you're going to be the Viper, you kind of have to have those, characteristics in your repertoire to actually make yourself a threat. But also, I'm just saying, if that match happens, I don't even know who I'd pull for.
Well, it'd be interesting to know, because there is definitely no question that Randy Orton would be a legitimate threat to win the WWE Championship over Drew McIntyre, despite the great face run that Drew has had. If you're going to have a surprise title change, that's going to be the spot that it's going to happen. And I definitely see, that if Randy Orton ends up being the one who ultimately gets the title shot, I don't know if he's going to be the one that gets it. We still got a couple of weeks before that happens. But right now, I mean, short of, let's say, Roman Reigns deciding to change his mind and come back, I don't see a bigger name you could put out there to headline the second biggest show of the year than Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton.
But here's my thing, and I think we were talking about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I also know we had ended up talking about it during NXT. We thought, if that's going to be the case, why not have someone, maybe a Keith Lee or a Karrion Kross or even an Adam Cole come up and actually, do their thing. It's not the first time we would have seen like NXT run roughshod and actually stake their claims to what they feel is, rightfully theirs. Well,
it also potentially opens up a door, because you have to remember, for those of you who watched NXT going back several years, when Drew McIntyre won the NXT Championship, it was Adam Cole who made his debut just, minutes after.
Yep.
So how fitting of a storyline that you could potentially have Drew retain over, let's say a Randy Orton, and then immediately have someone like an Adam Cole show up, and then you get to resume this storyline that really never really took hold, because instead of feuding with Cole, Drew ended up feuding with Andrade at the time instead, so the rivalry never really happened.
Now, let me ask you, if that is the case and Adam Cole happens to come up, even if it's for like one night for this pay-per-view, do you think he would bring his undisputed buddies with him?
I don't see how you don't.
I mean, then at that point, Drew would have to have someone in his corner. I could see, even if it's just, like I said, for one night, Dolph is probably in his corner after their feuds, or I could see, like, 3MB coming back, and Dolph kind of, is in there somewhere, and that way it gives them an even playing field in case that happens.
You realize Dolph hates Drew right now.
But,
all of them would be on one side.
But here's the thing, Dolph is like so diva. He could flip at any moment. That's what I'm saying. That's what I feel like could happen. But that's
not in this storyline. I don't think. I think Dolph is very much against Drew right now. I don't see any reason. If anything, he's joining Undisputed Era to make it more controversial. But either way, the point of all of this was there's about a million different directions that they could go with Drew McIntyre. There's a million directions you could go. Are you going to put the title on Sasha? Are you going to keep it on Asuka? And if so, who's your opponent? Because if Sasha beats Asuka, inevitably, is it just another match between the two of them at SummerSlam? If you keep it on Asuka, then Sasha's out of the picture. Who you bringing in? So there's about a million different ways to go, and luckily, there's some great matches to help kind of get things started. Fitting that you bring up Keith Lee because it leads us into NXT this week, where the big announcement from William Regal was that opened the show was that Keith Lee was relinquishing the North American Championship in favor of the NXT Championship. No surprise, you keep the bigger one for yourself. But in the name of opportunity for others, he relinquishes the championship, and rather than just have the title handed to somebody, you ultimately end up setting up your first set of matches that are going to lead to a ladder match at Takeover 30, which will happen the Saturday directly before SummerSlam. So a 2 pay-per-view weekend for us coming up.
But I feel like, because that was kind of, for me, that was a surprise shock for me to actually hear that. But that takes a big man to know that, I feel like other people, I've had the opportunity to hold both titles. I've had the opportunity to actually get, my chance to hold them. But it takes a big person to say, everybody in this locker room I feel is deserving. As much as I would like to hold the title, I want to see others get a chance at the title. So for him to say that and for Regal to agree with it, I think it's excellent. I couldn't see it no other way, honestly, after hearing it.
Well, they resume that storyline, as to who's going to get a shot at the North American Championship. A set of ladder matches being set up with the first triple threat being put into play, and it actually was quite a surprise. Bronson Reed going over 2 former North American champions in Roderick Strong and Johnny Gargano for an opportunity to compete in the ladder match at Takeover 30 to get a shot at the North American Championship. Bronson Reed's been a person that they've been, kind of just sitting in the wings for quite some time. They really didn't know what they wanted to do with him. He was injured for a little while, but now he's in the fold, and now all of a sudden he's the first participant getting a shot at a title match.
But I'm noticing he has come back with a vengeance for, wanting to win, wanting to be part of the roster, wanting to actually get his name out there. He has faced some people that I couldn't really see him, winning against. But the fact that he actually is the first person to win and to actually get into that, competition, it's only saying that, big things are destined for, who we thought were small people.
Right. Well, NXT, Smackdown proclaims itself to be the land of opportunity. But really in NXT, every single person across the board is going to get an opportunity to be able to shine at some point before they leave, because that's kind of the entire point of the, kind of developmental brand is you're wanting to build them up. So you really see everybody get a chance. Doesn't mean everyone's winning championships, but it does mean everyone is eventually getting themselves into the story. And another story that's starting to brew itself in is the now newest member of the Robert Stone brand, and that is the returning Mercedes Martinez, who came out to save Robert Stone. I guess she was a little late technically, because technically Shotzi ran over his other foot with her tank.
Hey.
I still think Cassius needs one of those. But ultimately Mercedes saying, hey, you handle the business outside the ring, I'll handle the business inside the ring.
You and for anybody that knows, she was one of the ladies that came around for the Mae Young Classic. I had a good feeling about her. It was her, Kyrie, Mia, just to name the 3. But I'm hoping that this second go round with this opportunity grants her great things. So I hope it works for her in the Robert Stone brand, because Rhea ain't gonna go for it because she's Rhea. Right.
Well, I think it's time to, if you're going to build up Mercedes in her second run with NXT, you need to do something well with her. It does appear like Dakota Kai is going to be the next one lining up for EO's title. The only question is, of course, is Dakota getting her shot at Takeover 30, or is she going to get it sooner and they're going to crown another #1 contender prior to then? And then, of course, with the NXT Championship now being the only title over his shoulders, it's clearly set for him to be facing off with Karrion Kross. He went one-on-one with Dominik Dijakovic in what ended up being a completely one-sided affair. Lee even coming to the ring and against his better wishes, out of respect for his friend. letting Dijakovic basically get his backside handed to him by Karrion because he told him, this is my cross to bear. You've got to let me do this even though I know I'm going to lose.
I like the fact, that he was fighting. I mean, as much as it was a one-sided smash, I feel like that, just to me, it takes a man's man to know, I stuck myself into it, I need to get myself out, even if I don't win, even if I get my, butt handed to me, I'm going to do this. And you could tell it broke Keith Lee's heart to actually see his good friend in real life, as well as in the ring, actually, get broken by Cross. I mean, how can you not be heartbroken by something like that? Well,
in the end, I mean, he's just Karrion showing, exactly the side you want from a good, strong heel, and that is no prisoners, no mercy. I'm going to destroy anyone and everyone that gets in my path, and I'm not going to stop until I am the NXT champion, and then I'm going to keep laying people out as they show up.
But I also love the fact that he's got a good, strong woman behind him, too. People think she's like, crazy or whatever. I just see it as she wants what's good for her man, and she's going to make sure it happens at all costs. And also, she slays while doing it, so hey.
She's a 9 when she rolls out of bed.
And she's a 10 when she's done with her, setup. But I'm just saying, the fact that, Karrion Kross is a very dominant force. I mean, I was against him and Scarlett, but I'm getting into this storyline. I like how he's taking people out. So.
Right. So the next week on NXT, a number of great matches already being announced, with the next one, of course, being the big match being the setup for the next person to go into the North American Championship ladder match. We get to see the return of the Prince.
Hey!
So he comes back. He will be part of the triple threat, and also Dexter Lumis is going to be involved in that match as well, which means there's a 2 and 3 shot that one of the two is getting into the ladder match. And as much as I hate to say it, I'm not sure they've done Finn right since he got here. He's yet to lose a takeover match or anything. But the fact is they haven't put gold on him yet, and he's been back for several months now. I think the North American, the only title he hasn't won in NXT. It's time maybe to to start putting some gold on him. But they've also been doing a fantastic job over the last couple of months doing setting up Dexter Lumis. So, only one right now is going to be able to advance out of that match. So who, we'll have to see who moves through.
That this is like really killing my soul because I love both men. But I can tell you for a fact, as much as I love Dexter Lumis, I've loved Finn way more. I've loved the Prince way more. So that would be, in my opinion, who I would be rooting for in that match. So, hey.
So you heard it here first. She's picking Finn. I honestly don't really care who has it. And as much as I hate to say it, I'm sitting here drawing a complete blank on who the third name is as to who's going to be in that
Gargano,
match.
I think.
Gargano was in the match with this past week.
Was he?
So they're not going to have Gargano be in another one.
Or he just inserts himself in there somehow.
The one thing we know is it's not your favorite. Cameron Grimes!
That dude is sticky. He looks sticky and grimy.
She loves some Cameron Grimes.
No, I don't.
So NXT once again, and as much as I hate to say it, not the best show they've put on in the last few weeks, but they can't all be the A+ shows, and you also don't want to waste your build up heading into Takeover. There's still a lot of weeks to go.
Yeah, that is true.
So we move to tonight's Smackdown. Of course, opening up with the role models yet again. Sasha and Bayley, 2 belts, 2 dose straps, whatever you want to call them. All I know is there were 4 belts on them when you did the math.
Do we have to go through this again?
Yes, we did. I feel like we haven't done this enough in this show.
I get it. Bayley is 2 belts Bayley or dose straps Bayley, but until Sasha wins that title, that Raw Women's title legit, I cannot see her as double champ. I'm just saying it. I know. I love some Sasha.
Well, they did a nice job of stirring the pot tonight by, picking on Nikki Cross after Bayley, through controversial means, retained the SmackDown Women's title against Nikki, but then saying, Nikki, you know what, you can have your rematch if you beat Alexa Bliss, your best friend, tonight. And they went to war, Nikki going over in a match where Alexa was like, all right, you got one over on me, congrats, but now you got to go out and handle business next week.
But I also I did not see it. Bayley was smart. I did not see that coming. I feel like, she's doing everything in her power for her to hold those titles as long as she can. But, it's just like, I feel like the Iconics are breaking. I even stated I believe that at some point they're going to turn, and the fact that Bayley came up with a brilliant idea, as much as I did not like it, it killed me, because you understand I love Alexa and I love Nikki, and of course I would pull for them over Sasha and Bayley, and I can tell you I'm in the minority, but you also saw while they were fighting, I can fight with my friend.
But you're not.
You're not going to fight with my friend. I love that, but at the fact, I'm glad Nikki's getting another opportunity. I wish the best for her, and I hope it works out.
Well, we'll find out next week because she'll be getting a shot at the another shot at the SmackDown Women's title against Bayley next week. Another number one contender crowned, and a very surprising one. It's Grand Metalik of Lucha House Party going to become the number one contender next week for the Intercontinental Championship against AJ Styles. It's fun to root for somebody like that. Once again, hey, land of opportunity. No one would expect Metalik to be successful anywhere outside of maybe 205 Live, but he's going to get an Intercontinental title shot. I will be stunned if we're putting Grand Metalik plates on that title belt, but hey, the match still has to happen, and you never know, especially with folks like Matt Riddle and AJ, not exactly the most popular person in the locker room right now. So hey, you never know. Still got to happen. New SmackDown Tag Champs, of course, crowned Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro winning. Announcement made today. Kofi Kingston's going to miss at least 6 weeks with some ribs and some leg injuries. Making the news that a lot of people have been wanting to hear for quite some time, and that is with Xavier and Kofi out. That means for the next few weeks, Big E's going to be going solo.
I wish the best for him. I honestly feel like, again, I think he's come here, he's won those tag titles more than we can count. I believe 8 times. I want to see him go for another title. I think, didn't he have the IC title at one point?
He did. He held it, you got to go back several years, but he was the Intercontinental Champion at one point during his heel run, right after he got done with Dolph and AJ.
I would love to see him hold that title again, as much as people are going to be like...
And of course, a former NXT champion as well.
As much as it's going to say, it's going to hurt to watch him take it off of AJ, if that's the case, I would love to see a different champ, because I'd love to see the titles get passed around.
Right. Well, I mean, everybody's been waiting for the opportunity, and even making mention that the New Day, always hung together, and Big E has been the one that's for years has been willing to put his personal, his personal goals aside to help out the team, even when Kofi, was able to win a singles title during his run when he won the WWE title. So one has to wonder, is Big E going to eventually, get a shot at maybe the Intercontinental title, or hey, maybe the Universal title? You never know. So we'll see what they do with Big E over the 6 weeks in which he'll be, representing the New Day basically by himself. And then the other big story, we'll hit the Universal title here in our main segment. Top of the hour, Miz TV, having a segment involving a hashtag that we were very much a part of this last week. We've been waiting a long time for the opportunity. Hashtag Naomi deserves better, and making it a very clear point that they, we noticed, we saw, letting Naomi be on there and getting the better of Lacey Evans, which is going to lead to a match this upcoming week. A special shout out, first of all, from us to Naomi, who finally, after 2 months, saw Kia's cosplay photos as well as her picture of her new chalkline jacket. And Naomi set a very nice conversation with us, very much back and forth. This was the moment that, God forbid, anybody who's followed us knows we've been waiting for. And she was standing in a Kroger at the time, and it's a wonder she didn't jump through the roof.
I was screaming on the inside. I was so excited. We have followed her from the moment she has started her run with this company, and so the fact that even happened, I was just so thrilled. I was in tears.
You ever seen anybody who's seen Despicable Me? You ever seen the scene where Agnes just sitting here, just
That's exactly what I was doing.
It's she's trying to hold it in, but it looks like a little bottle rocket that eventually at some point is going to go off, and when it does, it's going to be big. Well, that's basically what she was for the weekend, but that made our weekend. We gave a shout out to Ruby earlier in the episode. Naomi, same story from us. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, for commenting on what a wonderful job and how wonderful Kia looked. And it sounds like the hashtag that people put out there, it's it got noticed and may lead to she's begging to get something out here.
I just know.
So I guess I'll stop talking.
And I've got one thing I want to say for everybody that knows about black women and their hair. You never ever do that. So it was kind of good to see fair play and a turnabout happen, because that just was uncalled for in my opinion. I was good to that match up until then, but hey.
Well, at the end of the day, it does lead to Naomi and Lacey Evans having a rematch next week on SmackDown. Potentially a lot of discussion right now, very early, obviously through social media, that is kind of quietly a number one contenders match for the SmackDown Women's Championship at SummerSlam. It would be, to me, kind of fitting if Naomi would, get a shot at the title where technically her last title round ended. So, we'll see if that happens. Obviously, it's not made official. But the only way this works out to not be even more insulting than it was when it started, Naomi has to go over next week. Like, no matter how you slice it, she has to win next week.
You're going to have, and as much as, The Miz and Morrison made fun of the fact that, she trended in that way, well, you have to understand, she's got a huge fan base. Why wouldn't she trend? It's just like Miz would trend. Nobody says anything about him. I just see in that, I just see great things. And you've got to push her.
Well, if you go back and you look, and we made comment of this, on a previous, episode of a long time ago, and you look at the numbers now, Naomi's return at the Royal Rumble has garnered 4.4 million views on WWE's YouTube channel since the day that it happened, which was a little under 5 months ago, and yet no one else other than Edge's on the same night of any WWE video, including WrestleMania, has garnered more views than that. It's, the fan base making it very clear they deserve, that she is deserving of more than she is getting, and the fan base letting Vince and letting the writers know, like, we expect more from you for this person who's been here for 10 years and has put everything out in the ring and giving us amazing moments, and you've rewarded her with exactly 2 title runs, both within, one of them cut short due to her legitimately getting injured, so really you could say 1, and then you put her against Lana and then had her drop it to Natalya. Not exactly the grand run I think everyone was hoping for. So, you're hoping that, if it's going to be somebody that, first of all, I think if Bayley is going to drop the title, it would have to happen in a big event like a SummerSlam. And if it's not going to be Sasha because you're not ready to pull that trigger yet, why not Naomi?
But who was the one that actually had Bayley's number at the time? I think it would be fitting if Naomi went for that title and took it off of Bayley, because they had the match, and it's just, to me, it's just fitting.
Well, ultimately, as I said, Naomi has to go over next week.
She does.
The only way, because if you ultimately end up running all of this just to have Lacey win again next week, and I like Lacey.
I do too.
You've cosplayed as both.
I did. And
but if you have Lacey win again, then it kind of is just like a slap in the face to everything that's happened.
Yeah.
And then of course, they had the bar fight tonight between Jeff Hardy and Sheamus. I really hope that brings an end to this. I really hope that finalizes the story. I mean, Sheamus basically getting beaten in his own match. Jeff Hardy finally conquering the demons. Let's move to something else, especially if we head towards SummerSlam. Maybe Jeff Hardy for the Intercontinental title. He'd be great with AJ.
I think that story is getting stale, and as much as I love both guys, I want to see something different. I can't. How many more times are you going to bring up his past? How many more times are you going to bring up his demons? How are you not mad about the situation? The fact that Jeff Hardy has remained so calm and so collected, even knowing what he knows, he must have an inner peace with the whole thing, because it didn't bother him. I mean, it bothered him to the point where he took on the matches, but outside of that, you really didn't hear much about it.
Right.
So.
And then two more storylines, getting set up just through some videos this week. They're going to continue the Otis and Mandy Rose love story next week. Everyone, Otis and Mandy kind of disappearing for a few weeks, but finally going to bring them back. And then, of course, a Funhouse, Firefly Funhouse segment this week. Bray making it very clear the Fiend has been unleashed again. And he's pointed right at Braun. You basically can go ahead and put it down. Fiend and Braun for the Universal title at SummerSlam.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Clearly, we're going to have to wrap this up soon because the little one is not happy with us.
I'm going to tell you right now. Best freaking person, storyteller, wrestler, multiple personalities. It is Bray. How do you not push him? And as bad as I felt like, he had the title taken off of him, and I feel like you did him dirty.
Well, I mean, to put together a very, middle of the road storyline heading into WrestleMania that ultimately just allowed Braun to be able to win the title. Granted, it was supposed to be meant for Roman, but it ultimately allowed Braun to win the championship without the Fiend having to be the one to lose, which allows this match to happen, because you haven't seen Braun and the Fiend yet. You've seen Braun and Bray. You've seen the Swamp match. So, there we go. So, several more weeks. I'm sure Bray will have a couple more nice little storylines in the back. Of course, no sign of Braun this week. We assume he's still, picking the weeds out of, or, seaweed out of his hair or whatnot. But either way, with it being the one immediately following a pay-per-view, that we still have about a million different ways a storyline can go. But it's leading to 2 great pay-per-views coming up, usually 2 of the biggest ones of the year. You've got SummerSlam, and you also will have a Takeover. This will be on the 22nd and 23rd of August. So we've got just a little under a month, about a million different directions with, hopefully a great weekend. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited for it. I get excited about certain pay-per-views, but NXT is going to be a great one, and SummerSlam is the next best thing to WrestleMania, in my opinion. Nothing against all the other pay-per-views. I'm just saying.
Well, we'll see how it goes out. But anyway, that wraps up our show for this week. We had a lot of fun watching the horror show. If you haven't had a chance to watch our reactions video to the horror show at Extreme Rules, go back and watch it. It's a Questions with the Queen special. We're getting a lot of positive feedback. If you want to see us do it for Takeover and or SummerSlam, let us know, and that's something that the Queen is considering continuing, going forward. But that, for programming purposes, that was her Questions with the Queen for this week, as she has now officially moved to Thursdays. So with no pay-per-view, that does mean we don't really have any material, but hey, you never know when something might appear, and we might jump back on here for a little bit. But anyway, for those of you who can hear in the background, the little one is ready to be unleashed. Our little fiend ready to come out himself. So Kia, if you want to take us home, but everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend. Lord knows I'm tired. I worked 13 straight days and then still did this. I have a great time doing it, but I'm ready to go to bed. So Kia, please take us home. You guys have a good week.
Alright, so like my husband said, I did do that special, and I'm probably going to, with the feedback, I'm going to do it again. I loved it. I enjoyed all the interaction, and I'm even thinking about, and I might do it, so I want to hear from you. Would y'all like to guest appear with me to do a reaction? Because it would be fun to actually see not just my husband, not just myself, not just my oldest, but another person who would enjoy the same thing. If so, let me know, give me feedback, and I'll go from there. With that being said, I love you guys, and y'all have a good night now. Bye!